To start with, it's good to realize or good to know that all baits work. Doesn't matter what you throw out there, some fish somewhere will bite it. There was a back in the day for and pike in particular, but they would throw spoons. You know, we know what spoons are today, right? But they literally take a spoon and they'd weld a hook onto the spoon and throw it out there, and that would be their lure and it would work. So those are like the original spoons. So all baits work. It's just some baits work better than others. So not all of them work well. And we want to really focus in on what a high percentage bait is. And I'm going to go through that a little bit right now. This is sort of like a beginner's training 101. And this is something smallmouth put me to the test every single time I'm out there. I trust me, I am not talking down to you when I talk like this, because every time I go out on the water, the smallmouth teach me something new. So I always have to go back to basics, and this is where we're at right now. Realizing that every bait you're going to throw out there, it's going to work sometimes, but not everything works well. So when is a bait performing at its best? How do we know it's a high percentage bait? Well, one is if you're getting multiple fish. That's a good indication. And actually, what I don't have on the slide here is when you get multiple species. You might think that catching a carp or a drum, maybe not a carp, but a drum, a walleye, pike, muskie, any of these different fish on the same bait would be kind of a downer. But it's not, because each one of those fish thought whatever you're throwing is alive and they ate it. So that's the measurement of whether or not a bait is performing at its best, is when multiple species like it, where you get multiple fish, multiple bass on the same thing, same bait. Now, if you're getting big fish, some baits you don't get a lot of fish on, but you do get big fish. And it's good to know that. I got baits in my lineup that I can tell you are big fish baits. Even one of the smallest baits I have is a big fish bait. And I would use it in a tournament if I needed one big fish. So it's good to know which baits those are. How about if you make 100 casts and catch one fish? Is that a good bait? Well, it might be if it's a quality fish. One good example of that, I'd have to say, and I throw buzz baits a lot, and I love them on Lake St. Clair in particular, and for smallmouth in particular. A lot of people don't do the smallmouth thing with buzz baits. But I can throw an 1/8 ounce buzz bait out there, but I've thrown up to 1/2 ounce, maybe even 3/4 ounce, but definitely 1/2 ounce buzz baits, and still caught smallmouth. And it's good to have a trailer hook, right? That's always a good thing too. And I'm throwing sometimes the buzz bait in sunshiny days, in water that's less than 3 feet deep, and it's bright blue sky, bluebird sky, sunshiny day, 90 degrees, middle of the day, and I'm throwing buzz baits and catching smallies. So I guess in a lot of ways, smallmouth on Lake St. Clair break a lot of rules, and that's one of them right there, and it's a lot of fun. So if I make 100 casts with a buzz bait, it's a good chance that I'm getting a better than average fish on that buzz bait. It's not always true, but a lot of times it is true. And one little side note about buzz baits, didn't mean to bring this up, but early in the season, at least on Lake St. Clair, the largemouth are more susceptible to the topwater bite than smallmouth. Smallmouth take a little bit longer. So you can be catching largemouth on buzz baits early on in the season before things really get cooking for smallmouth. So that's just something to keep in mind. I know some days when it gets miserable out there and you're having a tough time with smallies, it's nice to have the largemouth in your back pocket.